Broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by theunshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back for a second WilmsFront featured interview, second in a row on this Thursday, the 16th of December, 2021. We are live again tonight on the Unshackled's YouTube channel and also the Unshackled's Facebook page because the WilmsFront YouTube channel is out of action until next week. Also, as always, live on the WilmsFront D-Live channel. No entropy link tonight. It is 8:40 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where Dan Andrews' new permanent pandemic laws came into effect. Dan is on holidays, so he signed the paperwork to declare a pandemic when he left for holidays on Friday. But it's just broken tonight that his holiday has been disrupted because he's been forced into isolation because he was at some event on the weekend where there was a COVID positive case there. So he's isolating and getting tested. There was another, 1,622 new cases today with some Delta, some Omicron. There's all this talk still about the variants. But as I mentioned on last night's show, the changes to public health orders that are now in place is that the unvaccinated can now shop in non-essential retail, such as, they can go to Bunnings or Officeworks, JB Hi-Fi, or buy some new shoes or whatever else, but are still excluded from hospitality and all those other public venues. They, of course, still cannot work in any type of retail, even though they are now permitted in retail stores. While they can't work outside of the home at all because the vaccine mandates are still in place. All the QR codes are still everywhere, and masks are still mandated in shops, though the mask fine from today is now halved to $100, with the breach of the pandemic order fine now half of what it was previously, $909. So some minor improvements, but we're still living in a medically segregated and tyrannical state. Tonight, my two featured guests are again new local activists here in Melbourne who became active this year as the lockdowns continued and have now been replaced by the mandates and passports. So Travis Thickens and Billy Illfreshar are the founders of the Australian Unified Movement, which grew out of the Victorian Freedom Movement and were regular attendees at the Kill the Bill campout. After the bill passed, the pandemic management bill, they moved to public housing, where Billy and Travis joined me from tonight. Welcome, guys.
There you go, mate. Sorry about noise. We've got the Cat Empire playing in the background, so it's pretty loud.
Yeah, it is.
How far are you from the Gate Botanical Gardens, Travis? Might be easy for you to get over here. But yeah. Sorry,
Travis,
what were you saying?
Travis says he can't hear anything. I think it was the music in, that was in Travis's background.
Yeah.
Himself.
Yeah, it's the Cat Empire. It's basically right behind the rotunda that we're in at the moment. So
okay. What is that? Margot, who's my moderator, says, can't hear you, Tim. Should be able to hear me now. You can both hear me.
Yep.
Travis looks like he's sprinting somewhere. But I'll tell the story in the pre-show. You two were still in the car on the way to Government House and trying to find a car park.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry, guys. Hey, Billy, where are you? My phone's stuffing up.
I'm out the front of the gate,
I'm
Botanical Gardens.
sorry. I should have thought of this before. I'm gonna use Billy's phone and jump on Billy's because my phone, it's coming up as a headset, not speaker, so I can only hear you to my ear.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry, I should have sorted it out before. That's my bad.
Well, this is you're nearly. How often are you at Government House?
Every day,
Every day. That's quite a
every
commute.
day. We just went back to I live about 20-30 minutes north of the city, so we just went back there for a shower quickly and took a couple of the other guys with us so we could all have showers and then come back. But there's about say around 20 to 30 that sleep here every night.
And obviously, as I said in my introduction, the pandemic management bill. Well, it's now it's part of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. So the bill has now been incorporated into the existing legislation. So what's the purpose of the campout now?
Well, at the moment, we're basically now with the pandemic legislation in effect. It's some of us within the collective feel it's even more important to be out here to question the actual legality of this legislation that's been passed, as it violates a lot of human rights.
Well, the previous state of emergency, as you two would have experienced firsthand, still violated lots of human rights.
100%.
Now, obviously, a lot of people were fearing when this day would come, and where we're living under the new permanent pandemic.
Mhm.
You're both in the same photo now. Maybe if you edit your name to have both Billy, and if you can do it widescreen, then we can get you both in.
Beautiful.
Andy Noltrue helped tee up this chat. Has asked, well, he wants us to get straight to the incident that occurred on Sunday with the Antifa person who was suddenly appeared out of nowhere at Sunday's event. I'll allow you two to tell the story.
Well, from what we've seen and with the footage, he wasn't under arrest to what we've seen because I was under arrest for using offensive language in public, and that put me in handcuffs. But he was walked back to a squad car and then was driven around the corner and reportedly dropped off at another car where he hopped in and drove away. So, the outcome of that, we weren't 100% sure of. They didn't take a statement down off the girl who was assaulted, so I don't believe he will be getting charged. So yeah, I'm not sure if he got arrested or not.
Yes, Margot. Swearing in public is technically illegal, but we've all heard people swear in public every day. It seemed to be just in that circumstance because you'd piss the police officer off. He was like, right, I'm arresting you because of that.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. He came in all authoritarian and pushed me out of the way and said, "Don't come here and incite violence." And then when I tried to explain that we're here to try and diffuse the situation, aggravate it, he said, "I don't care what you're here to do." And then that's when I swore, saying that's effing bullshit. I'm not sure if I can swear on the show.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
What is that? I just worry now that, I don't know, there could be another, cop in the bushes since you're like out in public. Might hear you swear again and arrest you again.
Maybe somewhere in the background. But yeah, I replied with, "That's fucking bullshit." You don't need to be coming here like power tripping. And then that's when he said, if you swear again, you'll be arrested. And I said, that's a fucking joke. And then he arrested me. So, and they tried to send me out infringements, which I'm still yet to receive in the mail. But apparently they'll be sending me out 2 infringements, which was disturbing the peace and swearing in a public place. So.
Did they tell you how much the fines will be for that?
No, they didn't really tell me anything else about the fines, really, to be honest. They tried to give me move-on orders, and then after we quoted a couple of legislations and acts, they kind of backed off because you can't really move somebody on from a political protest. So, yeah.
What I've noticed at a lot of the rallies that I've attended over the years, covered and also watched, is that the breach of the peace move on order, that's something that the police use at their discretion all the time. That's what they would have used against the Antifa infiltrator, and also what they tried to move with you. And so they, they give you an infringement if you don't comply with a direct move on order. Yeah.
So they try, but so under the Criminal Code Act of 1996, Section 83.4, anyone hindering the right for a person to politically protest can face up to 3 years imprisonment. So that there is the penalty for the Summary Offences Act of 1966, Section 6, Paragraph 5, A, B, and C, which basically just specifies that, you have the right to be anywhere, one place to protest with, regardless who you're with or where you are, to use signs, placards, or otherwise, meaning shirts, flags, whatever. So yeah, they're the acts that stop you from getting moved on when you're doing a political protest, and the Criminal Code Act is the one that will let them know how much they can be penalised if they try and do that.
I noticed on your Instagram, Trap, that's one of your stories, you showed your collection of infringement notices that you've got. I'm sure that you've got a few there, Billy. So obviously they've been issued. Like, how do you intend to, obviously you have no intention of paying them. What's the strategy? What's your strategy for dealing with them, apart from sort of keeping them in a box in your room?
It's pretty simple. It's simple fact of, we've got thankfully really good legal team that do know the rights basically towards the fines being issued, whether they were in lockdown, state of emergency or not. Technically in state of emergency, all those fines are illegal. They aren't allowed to issue fines, which they still did. So basically in court, got a blank mind on how to say it, but in court you basically say a couple sentences of that it is illegal to issue and all that, and you're not even in the courtroom for 20 minutes and it gets dropped. So there's no hassles with the one in lockdown. The one out of lockdown as well, there are a lot that came towards protesting and all that too. And as Billy said before, the criminal code, if you want to say that,
we don't need to repeat it again.
No, so that criminal act basically makes them not allowed to move on any protesters politically protesting. So all of those will get dropped as well. A lot are as well. If a lot saw, I drove around in my rental car at Parliament and I got about 9 fines in one night. Spray painted my rental car with Sack Dan and Kill the Bill and all that.
Was one of those cars yours?
Yeah, one of those were mine, yeah.
Because there was when I attended a few nights of Occupy Spring Street with Andy, I noticed there was a few spray painted cars. Andy's asked, he's on the Facebook Facebook live chat. Can you see there when I put the comments up? Can you see?
Yeah, you can see him, yeah.
So he said, has the council returned the victims'
Yep.
memorial? To give people context, is that the one outside Parliament House where it had people left items representing what they'd lost over the past, well, now 20 months?
Yeah, so that was exactly a lot of like uniforms, and there was also abandoned toys and stuff on the steps of Parliament. And then what was it? How many weeks ago did they take it? Oh, about only a week ago. Yeah, about a week ago. They decided to come down at really early hours of the morning and basically just packed everything up into a car, and it disappeared. But that there is also under the Summary Offences Act, section 6, paragraph 5C, is where it states placard signs or otherwise. So all that memorial stuff would be categorized as otherwise. So therefore, it's a criminal offence to break that act. And as we said, the Criminal Code Act states that hindering the right to protest is punishable for up to 3 years. So we believe that it will be returned. But did we get collected? It did get collected? Yeah. It got collected. Okay, yeah. There you go. So, yeah, we got it returned.
And I saw today, I can't remember if it was on your feed, Billy, or Travis, says the Melbourne Council are trying to move you on from Government House. This is the Melbourne City Council, not the Dan Andrews state government. But what have they threatened to do?
Tomorrow morning they plan to come down, as council does at normally early hours, but they plan to come down and issue notice to every individual person participating, and then forcefully remove our belongings. But yeah, so we had an First Nations lawman, which goes under elder goes under the name Zelenak. A lot of people know him. He's very inspirational and a very wise man. Basically, we got him to come down, and thankfully he was just parking up when they did rock up. So he went up to them. It shows all in the recording. Shows all in the recording of basically him telling them, don't come and issue these notices and all that unless you have it all written down. Basically, he was stating that if they're going to come here and issue notices, then they're to bring the offences that they're claiming we are breaking and the validity that states that they are authorised to do so.
My moderator Margot makes she's made a similar point to the point that I'm going to make to you, that even though the pair of you have quoted legislation, and you mentioned the Aboriginal elder that you know about his interpretation of the law, the thing that certainly I've learned over the years is that the system is rigged against you, and so you can read the legislation as permitting your activity, but especially since we've had the Labor state government for most of the past 20 plus years, they've appointed all the magistrates, judge and justices who, as we've seen with all these court challenges over the past 20 months, they're not going to go against the decrees, orders of the government that appointed them.
Yeah, we're well aware that may be the case. We're also well aware that it's a lot harder to try and do that if we have more people around. So we have also put out an SOS for asking people to come in and show support. We will be having the Indigenous elder and lawman Zelenak doing a smoking ceremony from sunrise, which will then also be illegal for them to interrupt an Indigenous ceremony of First Nations people. So we're well aware that some things may happen, but we just want them to be well aware that if that does happen, then we will see them in court.
At the end of the day, too, the tribal law is the only law in Australia. None of this other law is Australian. So they have it all in writing, and there's no full stops after every single word. Now, in order, all the documents and declarations, all of that need to have proper writing. Otherwise, you can throw it back in their face and say, "What am I reading? What language is this?" Basically, like I said, at the end of the day, tribal law is the only law in Australia, and nothing beats it. It's like I said, yeah, the only law. So
The only law that's still truly recognised by the Queen, and the law that's been, well, everyone knows what's going on with the Constitution in Australia. So yeah.
It's quite clear both of you believe in the Aboriginal sovereignty philosophy movement. Has many different names. I noticed going back on your Instagram feed, Travis, you attended the BLM 2.0 rallies in June 2020, in between the first and second waves. And bringing it back to that Antifa person who infiltrated that, they're part of what they what they were saying is that, oh, you're marching, holding rallies with Nazi white supremacists who hate Aboriginal people and want the white race to rule the land. And obviously, it's attempt by these. I call them anti-freedom people, not anti-fascist, anti-free.
Yeah.
How do you well, it's been a mantra that's been repeated in the mainstream media ever since the September protests. How do you respond to such accusations?
just laugh at it, basically.
Yeah, it's a pretty laughable claim. The fact that the mainstream media are saying it, I mean, from my experience from protesting, I've done protesting for quite some time, but the mainstream media just always look to pit the left against the right and the right against the left. And this is one of the first times in my lifetime and potentially Australia's history where we've had the left and the right standing side by side, and people that are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and people from all walks of life, age, religion, race, culture, sexual orientation. It doesn't matter. It's one of the most unified times I've seen in Australia's history. Even though we are going through mass segregation, the people that are standing together are coming from all sorts of different walks of life. And I think that with all that being said, the mainstream media can't really pit the left against the right in this situation. So I think maybe, in my opinion, I'd say maybe that they're trying to basically put us as extremists, to hoping to get other extremists to retaliate. I mean, on the steps we had both sides of extremisms come up. We had far right racists that had Nazi propaganda tattooed on their body and stuff, and we had the far left Antifa coming with black blocs and trying to cause problems and stuff like that. And then we had even people that didn't really even seem like they were from any particular side of the fence. They just seemed like they were paid there to cause trouble, mainly maybe because mainstream media was around or something like that. Not 100% sure, but there was all sorts of issues on the steps nightly. So so yeah, all sorts of reasons, but it didn't deter the Victorian public from actually sticking by us. The community support was absolutely phenomenal. A lot of it still is. We're still getting a lot of support, and the amount of people that would rally up on a Saturday was amazing. I mean, numbers are starting to dwindle lately, but yeah, it's a thing that obviously we'll have to face as things, time goes on. It'll always dwindle away and then regrow and stuff. I think that's just part of a movement, really.
Yeah, people maybe are feeling a bit more secure now that things might go back to more normal, but don't count on it, especially with all this Omicron moronic hysteria going on, which I'm not sure how much you know about Omicron, but it's much milder than the existing COVID that's around. That's the actual evidence, so we shouldn't be too worried.
Yeah, well, COVID didn't. So I can't get vaccinated because I have severe anaphylaxis, and it could kill me. So that is also one of the criteria that deem me eligible for exemption. But obviously, the immunisation board aren't really approving anything at the moment, but they won't deny it either because you can't deny an eligible claim because then that could be taken to court or whatever. So it's just basically sitting on a desk somewhere, to my knowledge. But yeah, it's I had COVID for 4 days is what I felt. It felt like hay fever, and then on the third day I lost my. Sorry.
When did you get it?
How long ago was? Yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that.
So you what the Victorian Department of Health would classify as the freedom protest cluster. I think they listed 39 protesters out of the hundreds of thousands.
The gardens are locked up. Not sure. Maybe there's another entrance down there that has a security guard. Sorry about that, guys.
Who were they? Were they people there for the campout or something else?
Something else. There's apparently a candlelight movie night or something like that in the Botanical Gardens, but the Botanical Gardens is closed, and we're actually using the locked gate as a stand for my phone. So
yeah. Well, you literally are symbolizing that you're locked out.
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, going back to what I was, the Victorian Department of Health was saying, look, 39 people out of the hundreds of thousands that attended the freedom protests in November were diagnosed with COVID, and apparently 3 went to hospital. And 38 of 39 were unvaccinated, which obviously they probably counted you as one of those. But I also had Michael Griffith on my show, who hosts a cafe Locked Out, who had COVID, and it was mild as well. I think one of the Sydney freedom activists, Mario Malik, has got COVID at the moment. And all the people that I know who have got COVID have got it when they're unvaccinated. I mean, they're around about my age, your age, in 20s or early 30s, and they've all been fine.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was literally, I thought it was just hay fever. And then on the third day, I lost my smell and taste, and that's what made me realize that it was probably COVID. But the next day, it all came back, my smell and taste, and then the day after that, I was normal. So it was basically like 4 days or so of what felt like hay fever symptoms, and it'd clear up not long after I woke up, and then it'd get worse just before I go to bed. And that was pretty much it for a couple of days. And this lucky guy doesn't seem to get it for some reason. So
I've been around that many people that's 3/4 of my family have gotten COVID. I don't have much friends, and basically all the friends I know and that are close to me have gotten it. And I've hung around someone for a full week, and they had it that whole week. I still haven't gotten
sleeps next to me, about 2 feet apart.
I just haven't gotten it.
Never got it.
I'm vaxxed, by the way.
Yeah, unvaxxed, pure blood.
Well, Travis, you're like a fit, healthy young guy. I mean, you're only 21. You're very active, so you probably got a strong immune system anyway.
Well, yeah, I was fully vaccinated as a kid, but that's got nothing to do with COVID. Like, you can still get it no matter what. But I play football. I'm a senior vice captain basically of my football side. I box, I train, I do all that. I haven't for a long time now because of the protesting and all that. Yeah, and the lockdowns and all that. But yeah, obviously I hope to get back into it when we finally are allowed to, or can relax a bit. But for now, my passion, my heart is into activism. Like it's where my heart is, and where my goal is to win over our freedom and save our children at the end of the day.
It's not a hobby anymore, it's a lifestyle.
That would have been so disruptive. Throughout the lockdowns, community sport constantly off, and it's a form of both exercise and fun, and and obviously the first thing that was always shut down where they introduced new restrictions was gyms, for your health. And
I've been able to go there for almost 2 years.
and so obviously you have footy teammates, and like there's every suburb basically the local footy club is a pillar of the community. I mean, what's it not just been like for you, but all your footy mates as well, to have the season on off?
Oh, it's hard. The whole year this year. We played all year this year. Basically all year. And we had our last 3 games or something. If we won one of those 3, which we were definitely going to, we would have made finals for the first time in many, many years. So it was really, really hard to face the fact that this pandemic, sorry, I coughed, has stuffed it all up, and footy was my happy place. I've been in a really dark place all year. I've been going through a lot of heartbreak, loss. My grandmother, she died in about June, and she was my best friend. So that was a very, very hard time for me, and I always could rely on football. I could go to training and going, I'm happy here. It can distract me, but when that got called off, and then our season got called off, it really hit me, and I had no distraction to get out of that dark hole that I was in. And thankfully, as bad as it sounds, I started protesting and all that, and then found the meaning of it all, and that's where my passion came in, because I'm like, hold on, this is affecting my daughter. I started learning. I was fully unaware of everything happening, but I was protesting. I got brung by one of my family members in lockdown and all that. And I've been raised as a passionate kid, so I fight for what I believe in. And the first time I went, I really knew the meaning of why I was fighting that day, and why we were getting hammered by police and all of that. So yeah, basically, when footy got called off, I was in a dark place. But now that I protest and all that, it's been a good distraction. But yet, as bad as it sounds, I wish we never were doing this. I wish there could be an alternative distraction to be using, but that this is our life for now, and we got to keep fighting. We can't give up.
You mentioned your young daughter in a lot of your speeches during the protests. I'm not sure if you have children, Billy.
No, I don't have kids. I do want them one day, but I'm a bit hesitant to bring them in this country. So. And
that's the most sad thing, and we've seen it with Australia's fertility rate that just plummet to, I think, 1.56%, like per man woman every 2 Australians, and it's due to the uncertainty over the pandemic and lockdowns. And it's so sad in a way that because people they want to have children, raise a new generation, pass on their values and quality of life to them. But this is part of the dark space that we're in. Like, how can you bring a child into a world that is turning just so insane and cruel? Like, children's education has been disrupted, and now that they're back at school, they're forced to wear masks in class, and I can't imagine how it's messing up some of the particular young children.
That's our biggest fight, children. We know how much is at stake for their future and how much they're at risk if we do nothing about it. So it's up to us, young people and full-grown adults, to stand up and fight for them, because if we don't, then who will?
We've also been speaking to another friend of ours that is hopefully trying to line up some public outreach to have some talks with the youth and stuff, because we've both been in situations before where we know dark places aren't really the best place to be, but yeah, we'd like the opportunity to be able to reach out to them a bit more and let them know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, it's a big thing.
As you said, Travis, I mean, this is our lives now, whether we like it or not. I mean, it's mandated by the government, how we're living now. But we all remember, well, as they're called, the before times. I mean, either of you politically aware pre-March 2020, or were you just living life as well we were supposed to?
Like I was in a relationship with the mother of my child at that time when COVID came around. We struggled with COVID, but we never and we supported all the protests, but we never went because we were too busy. Well, it actually came out when she fell pregnant, and we were too busy planning on getting ready for our daughter and all of that. So that was the main objective for us. But we also, I'm not going to lie, we'd go out, we'd enjoy the freedom when we got it. But yeah, I was personally unaware how serious it was, this lockdown and pandemic and all that. But we struggled, and yes, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked on it. But we struggled through it, but it was a good time for us to save, etc., for our daughter. But then when it got really serious and started affecting us, me and my ex-partner, we split up in June, so we're still in lockdown. And yeah, like when we split up, I drifted off into a dark hole, and she struggled a bit, but she was fine, financially, mentally a bit unstable. But I felt I had nobody, and when I found the people at the protest and all that, it was like I found myself. So it gave me another goal to fight for. So like with all the lockdowns and all that, and this pandemic that we were in, when I learnt all about it and got more wise, it was a massive eye opener for me, and that's why I won't give up personally. But yeah.
Myself, I was doing activism about 7 years ago, so I've just been kind of trying to stop the totalitarian, draconian type state that we've in back then, and I tried for a few years and got scrutinised all over mainstream media and stuff for it. So I
what movements were you involved in back then?
Back then, I was involved with Anonymous and the equality rights movement.
I know what Anonymous is. What's the equality rights movement?
It was just basically a collective of, well, not a collective, but a whole group of different movements within Victoria. I can't remember half their names, to be honest, but like BLM and stuff like that. Anyone that was more or less fighting for equality rights. I've always been an equality rights activist and a freedom fighter across the board. Fight for, I've got a belief that freedom is freedom until someone's freedom obstructs another's freedom. So basically, I'll fight for that freedom until I die.
Well, that's basically, what is it, libertarianism 101. I mean, at heart, I'm a libertarian, and freedom, living our lives how we want them, is the most important political battle fight of our time. And going back to the attempts by the anti-freedom people to divide because, oh look, there's there's some far right people there, but it doesn't really matter at this stage what people's views are on other political issues. I mean, if everyone has the belief in freedom, that's a pretty universal value.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I don't get how somebody can be be a fascist and a Nazi if they're supporting freedom and freedom of choice and free speech, free association.
I've always been a big advocate for pro-choice, like freedom of choice. I was involved in the LGBT protests advocating for gay marriage. I'm a firm believer that anyone, regardless of age, race, sexual orientation, culture, religious beliefs, should have the right to do whatever they feel is, their freedom, as long as it's not obstructing someone else's freedom. I don't see the issue. Like, everyone's equal, in my opinion, so they should be treated equal.
There would have been, I'm not sure if you still like are friends on social media with people that you met during that time, but a lot of people in those social justice movements, or should I say, some have just turned into the most hardcore lockdown advocates and just cheering on all the police brutality, like they can't get enough pepper spray and rubber bullets. And it's even now, like, they're still like, oh, there's this new variant, lock it all down, shut people down from returning to the country to see their family, put all the people who been exposed to whatever in the COVID camps and whatever. And it's how have people become like that not just single-minded, but cruel, downright advocate cruelty and basically sadism in some aspects.
Yeah, I would love to have the answer for that question. The craziest thing with me was back then, even some of the movements that are like advocating pro-vaccines and passports and mandates and all this kind of stuff like that, now they didn't really seem like they were quite all there when I was rallying as well. But it was predominantly left movements in 7 years ago when it comes to equality rights and stuff like that. Even for Invasion Day and stuff like that, it was predominantly left that was there and stuff like that. So I did have associations with some of them that now are a bit even more so twisted. But I left the country for a few years and moved to Sweden and got sent back as the pandemic hit. When I came back, it blew my mind, to be honest, to see how all of these movements that were meant to be about pro-choice and all these, like even the LGBT community and some of the activists from that movement have ridiculed me for what I'm doing, which has blown my mind because they're meant to be pro-choice as well. That's the whole reason I was marching with them when we were advocating for gay marriage.
I'll pick you up on that point. If you sort of wind back the clock 40 years, that's when the AIDS pandemic began, and there were people in the early 80s advocating that you needed to segregate gay people from the rest of society because they were spreading disease. You need to shut down places where they meet. That was an abhorrent thing to suggest at the time. Yet, what is it, with this new pandemic, it's basically across the board shut down everything. But those sorts of people, it doesn't dwell on them that if this sort of mentality was in place in the 80s, then people like them would have been rounded up and put into island camps and whatever.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. Even a lot of like the I think that it's CAF, Citizens Against Racism and Fascism. A lot of those guys were around back in the day with the equality rights as well. Obviously, because it states in the name, they're meant to be citizens against racism and fascism. but a lot of those people as well are completely, pro-fascism basically now. In my opinion, one of the key parts of fascism is telling people to do stuff that they don't want to do, and that's exactly what's happening here with all these mandates, and they're advocating for that as well. The whole collection of different groups from back then, a vast majority of them seem to kind of have their wires crossed now. I can't explain it. I've never really been a left or right. That's why I was enticed to the anonymous movement, being a centralized based movement, I guess you could say, or collective. So they didn't really have, a left or right agenda per se, until obviously as years went on, a lot of people it was easy to hijack a movement that no one knew the face of. So anyone could put on the mask and make a video and then say that this was anonymous or that was anonymous. So yeah, a lot of different things came into play with that movement as time went on, and it's mind blowing now, and that's why we founded the AUM movement, the Australian Unified Movement. Obviously, unification is key. If we can't unify the people of Victoria, at least, then how are we ever going to get enough people to stand up and say, we need to fight for our freedoms. We need to take back what is rightfully ours. And I mean, you look at Europeans go out there in millions and they actually achieve what they're trying to.
France and Italy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's millions that they have. And I can guarantee you that not all of those people that are in the streets in Italy and France and stuff like that, they're all left or all right. They're a combination of both and everything in between. It's just, we obviously disassociate ourselves with extremists from far left or far right. Any form of extremism is extremism, and that's not what we're about. But yeah, it's difficult, especially with the time that we live in right now. Things are even more difficult. So,
well,
yeah.
What is the definition of an extremist now? That's a whole other question.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was about 6 years ago or something like that they changed the definition of a terrorist. So if you're an anti-corrupt government advocate, then you can be classed as an anti-government advocate or an anti-government activist, which in their definition is classed as terrorism. So it's pretty crazy, the world that we're living in. And obviously something has to be done. It's taken a while for a lot of people to realise that, things need to be changed, but it's just great to see that everybody's on board now and starting to actually get out there and try and make a difference, because if we don't have the numbers, we really don't have much to say.
Well, you saw Michael Gunner, the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, tried to change the definition of anti-vax to even people that are vaccinated but are against forced mandatory vaccinations. I mean, that was, I'm sure you all saw his meltdowns, including against what he called the tinfoil hat tossers. That's obviously people coming over to the Northern Territory, like literally removing close contacts from remote communities and putting them into the Howard Springs quarantine camp.
Yeah, we when we heard about all of that stuff, it was extremely disheartening, especially being so far away. If we were closer, we probably would have been there as it was happening. The Indigenous elders that we work closely with and stuff, and are associated with the collective as well, are absolutely heartbroken, and it was a difficult time. And I mean, what's happening up there is just atrocious, and one of the biggest worries is it happening everywhere as well. So, but to say that as well, one injustice is just as bad as 1 million. So it's yeah.
Well, there's that coming online at the end of the month is Victoria's local quarantine camp. Sorry, Centre for national resilience at Mickleham. And what is that there? They're building one in, what is it, Queensland at, what is that place called? Well Camp.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's definitely a massive concern, especially if they start trying to round everyone up. It's not a thought that hasn't crossed our minds. Like, will they come for us? And probably will, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it, I guess.
Now, I first noticed the Vic Freedom Movement, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's how the Australian Unified Movement began.
Kind of. So I showed up to the steps, obviously, because I had my own reasons, as everyone did, to come to the steps or protest about the mandates and stuff like that. So I arrived there, and I also support Trav. So while I was there, after I think maybe the first night or something like that, I could see that he needed a bit of help, so I gave him a bit of a hand. And after spending every night on the steps, day in, day out, sometimes not sleeping for 4 or 5 days at a time, we noticed that there was an insane amount of momentum and energy that we needed to harness within the people that were so passionate and had so much fire in their hearts to be able to sleep on the steps day in, day out, and all the people that were showing support and be willing to help us and get our message across. So we harnessed that momentum basically, and formed the Australian Unified Movement. And I was never part of VFM, but yeah, I supported Trav.
That's a kookaburra there.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
It's just nature.
But yeah, so other than that, I guess that's basically how the Australian Unified Movement was formed. Also has no hierarchy, so we are a collective, which means we have everyone within the collectives help us make the decision on what we do. We do have a smaller core collective that will bring issues to the table, and then we'll try and find the best solutions possible and bring those options to the major collective, and then we all make a decision based on that. We find that dissolves the need for hierarchy and egos. So as the AUM is a movement for the people, by the people, we kind of want to keep it that way as much as possible, and not have any kind of egos or hierarchy that could be influenced by other parties or political people or anything like that, politicians or anything. We're basically trying to, the main goal for us is education and unification. So we want to help educate people about what's actually happening, and unify the people of our nation to try and actually make a difference. Obviously, we also do a lot of public outreach because we're both firm believers that although the system is completely flawed, we as people, it's part of, I believe, and I believe so does Trav, that we believe it's part of your civil duty as a human being on this planet to look after those in need. So where the system's flaws are, we'll try and pick up the slack where we can and help out where we can, and just basically, try and make this world a better place, really.
Obviously, there's been a lot of commentary that there's all these different freedom groups that are popping up, and they mention because different people have got different egos. That's why there's different groups. But I also say, like, obviously, like your political values, motivations for freedom are a bit different to some others, and so therefore it's sort of sensible for everyone to have their own separate group where they can unite around what their message is. But obviously in the last 24 hours there's been a lot of, let's say, commentary and a disquiet about the Freedom Ball that happened in Sydney last night, organised by the Aussie Cossack, which was advertised as $500 a a ticket, which obviously it's not Freedom Day even in New South Wales, and there's a lot of people still without jobs, and they're trying to rebuild their lives. Have you? What are your thoughts on the Freedom Ball?
I didn't. I mean, I seen the event for it. I just thought it was something that was being done in Sydney by Aussie Cossack, and I mean, you know, if that was his choice to do that, his choice. I didn't even receive an invite or anything like that, so I just, I don't really know much about it, to be honest. The idea of having celebration and party to that extent sounds great, but we don't really have that capability to do so down here in Victoria, so we have more pressing issues to deal with, and I didn't really concern my time on an event like that. I was more concerned on the events that we were trying to organise in the upcoming future. Not that I don't agree with, you know, having an event that's you know, people get together and party and stuff like that, but as you said, I don't have a job. I don't know many other people that do. I probably wouldn't be trying to organise an event that would, you know, cost so much money. He may have his own reasons. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak on other people's opinions. I don't even like to use my own opinion half the time. So yeah, but yeah, I, as I said, just focused my energy and concentration on the more pressing issues at hand in Victoria. I didn't really hear much about it other than the flyer that went out. So.
All of the AUM events, I mean, they're all free walk-up events. I mean, you're at Government House nearly every day, and if you get evicted from there, you'll go and go find another public place somewhere. Like, people can come down to where you are and say hi and have a chat with you.
100%. I mean, we may not leave Government House and go occupy somewhere else. We may re-strategize that, but all of our events are free. We don't charge for that kind of stuff. The community support is more than enough for us to run the events that we do, so we don't expect people to pay. Like, even when we have like Christmas event, which we'll be hosting next Thursday, I think it is, the 23rd of December. The amount of support from the community already, we've put on, like, let people know, bring a plate of food if you want. If you don't have one, that's fine. Just come and enjoy and socialize. Just from that alone, I believe that we're going to have enough resources to be able to provide for everybody as it is. We don't really need to charge for any of our events. I don't ever think that we would. So yeah, it's about unifying the communities and getting everyone to feel inclusive and stuff. We wouldn't want people to feel as if they can't attend because they can't afford it or something like that. You know, we don't walk around asking for donations or anything. If people want to contribute, then that's up to them. We obviously appreciate it, but it's definitely not something that we require. We just try and do what we can to the best of our abilities every time we do it.
People, they might not appreciate just how organic the Occupy Spring Street movement and now Occupy Government House movement is. Like, there was like food for attendees there. There was no centralized like food kitty or anything. Just people who supported brought a slab of water or slab of soft drink or what is it? Some also strangers just sent like 10 boxes of Dominoes there, or brought some coffees there because they wanted to support the people there. Like, that's how organic the whole movement is at the grassroots level.
Definitely. Hey Kim, just quickly, sorry, I'm gonna have to dip out. My car just got towed.
Okay, losing light.
There was no car park, so I parked in no standing, and yeah.
Oh, well, I appreciate you risking that possibility to speak with me tonight. Thank you both for your time and introducing yourself to my audience. I'll put all the AUM links on the
Yep.
on the show notes page, and hopefully I'll come down and see you in person.
Yeah, for sure.
Before Christmas as well. We're also losing
Yeah,
light as well. So
yeah, I would also just like to say that we're extremely grateful and appreciative of everyone that has supported. There was some people that did have donations. A lot of money came out of our own pockets, and the rest of everything that happened was basically pure support from the community. So it wouldn't have been possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep doing what we're doing if it wasn't for the support of the community. So just wanted to say thanks to everybody out there that's been in support of AUM and the occupiers vigils that we've been holding at Government House and Parliament steps, and we're always going to continue to try and do our absolute best as a movement for the people by the people.
yeah, well, keep up the great work, and yeah, we'll see if you're see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, take care and stay safe.
You too, mate. Stay good. See you later.
All right, everybody, that's the show for this evening. So 2 WilmsFronts in a row featuring, well, the new activists of new local Melbourne activists of 2021. Obviously, I hadn't had a WilmsFront featured interview show in a number of weeks, so it was just bam, bam, 2 nights in a row because why not? And it's getting close to Christmas, so everyone's going to be busy soon, and understandably probably don't want to do a sit-down interview. Tomorrow night will be the last Trad Tasman talk of the year with Stephen Berry. So that'll be at 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. Then hopefully be back on WilmsFront YouTube next week for the final Tim's News Explosion before Christmas, 8:30 p.m. Monday on the WilmsFront channel. And also there will be one last WilmsFront before Christmas. Margot has arranged for Pastor Paul Furlong to appear as a guest with a Christmas message. I would assume. Remember, he spent several weeks on remand after he was charged with incitement and then breach of bail as well. So that'll be good to chat with him as well just before Christmas. Please, everyone, stay safe and stay sane, and enjoy life. Don't get scared of what is it? The Omicron moronic. They'll just be more fear porn by the media up to Christmas. So yeah, just tune out of that. All right. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting theunshackled.net to view all our shows. And to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.